Hello, I am Miss Ann and welcome back to Speedy Science. Each week in this program we do a fast science activity that you can fit into your busy schedule. This week we are going to do an experiment about surface tension by balancing a paperclip on different liquids. For this experiment you will need bowls, some tissue paper, a paperclip, a pencil with an eraser, and a notebook, a towel, and 3 different liquids. I am going to use water, milk, and soda, but you can use any 3 liquids you want. First, we need to write down our hypothesis, or guess, about which liquid we think will be the easiest to balance a paperclip on. Next, we are going to run the experiment 3 separate times, and each time we'll run it the same way with a different liquid. For the first time, we're going to use the water. First, pour some water into a bowl. Next, rip off a piece of tissue paper. You want it to be about the size of half of a dollar bill. Next, gently and carefully place the tissue paper on top of the water so it floats. And then place your paperclip gently on top of the tissue paper. Now comes the tricky part. Using the eraser of your pencil, try to push the tissue paper away so that the paperclip balances on top of the water without the tissue paper. Did you see that? We got it to float. And lastly, this is an important last step. Go ahead and dry off your paperclip. It's very important to make sure the paperclip is always dry. Now, we are going to run the experiment again with our milk. First, we're going to pour some milk into a glass. Next, we're going to rip off a piece of tissue paper about the same size as we did last time. Then we're going to gently place the tissue paper on top of the milk and gently place the paperclip on top of the tissue paper. Then we're going to take our eraser and poke away at the tissue paper to see if we can get the paperclip to float. A bit trickier, but we did get it to float. Remember, there's no such thing as a mistake in science, so if it takes you a few times to get something, that's okay. Lastly, we're going to run our experiment again, this time with the soda. First, we're going to fill a bowl with some soda. Next, we'll rip off a piece of tissue paper about the same size as the other 2. And place it gently on top of the soda. Lastly, we're going to take our paperclip, dry it off to make sure it's nice and clean, and place it on top of the tissue paper. And now it's time for the tricky part, to place our eraser on top of the paperclip. That didn't work. I wasn't able to get the paperclip on top of the soda. And remember, that's okay, because there's no such thing as a mistake in science. When things do not work out the way we think they will, that's how we learn about what's around us. Now, I'm going to write down my observations about all three liquids. How long did it take me to balance the paperclip on the different liquids? Was I successful? Was it easy or hard? For me, the easiest liquid was the water. The soda was the most difficult, and the milk was somewhere in the middle. Let's talk about water. The paperclip floats on different liquids based on the amount of surface tension. Surface tension in a liquid is based on the way different molecules bind together to form a layer on top of a liquid. The surface tension of water is very high, but it's lower in soda since soda has salts, minerals, and other ingredients that change the way the molecules are formed. The surface tension of milk is somewhere in between the two. What was the response to your experiment? Make sure that you let us know what happened with yours. Thank you again so much for coming. I'm Miss Ann, and I can't wait to see you back next week for another quick science experiment in Speedy Science. Hi all, I'm Miss Ann, and welcome to this week's bonus activity. In today's video, we learned about surface tension by comparing different liquids. But there are other experiments you can do to learn about surface tension. For example, you can figure out how size impacts surface tension by running an experiment balancing different items on the same liquid. For example, you could use water as your liquid and try to balance a paperclip, a coin, and a game token and see how easy or hard it is to balance the items. Remember that in an experiment, you only want to change one variable each time. If you change too many things, it can be difficult to figure out what's happening. So make sure you keep the liquid the same and change the size of the items. What do you think would happen when you change different items to balance? Make sure to let us know. Have fun experimenting!